What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Wake and Jake College Football Show. We've got a Week 11 preview coming up here. This is going to be a typical episode, news and notes, previewing the weekend's games. We do have some Friday night games this time around, and then I will get into my 5 favorites at the end. But then we're also going to talk a little bit, and I guess we'll get into this in the news. College football playoff rankings were released. First week that we've gotten to do this for the 12-team playoff. Honestly, not a lot to talk about when it comes to that. I know there's some people who are going to disagree about that, but we'll get into it. But before we do, let's get a little high. And this first smoke break brought to you by coffee, because what's a wake and bake without some coffee? All right. Before we get into the games, let's get into some news from the week. Dana Holgorsen, he is joining Nebraska as an offensive consult. I know there's some Nebraska fans who are worried about this because they think Nebraska's going to be going to an air raid now. Look how that's worked out for Wisconsin. We can't be doing that. They're probably not going to go to an air raid, but I do think that offense does need some help, and I think Dylan Raiola needs a little help, and I think Dana Holgorsen is someone who can help. So I do like this move, and I think that's a good one for Nebraska to make there. So other than Dana Holgorsen joining Nebraska, there really was not a lot of news. I mean, there's some injury news, I guess, here and there, but nothing major that I necessarily wanted to get into. But the College Football Playoff Committee did release their first rankings. And honestly, I mean, not too much is shocking on this. I'll just run through their top 25. They got Oregon 1, Ohio State 2, Georgia 3, Miami 4, Texas 5, Penn State 6, Tennessee 7, Indiana 8, BYU 9. Now that's where some people started to get a little grumpy about it. Some people think that BYU should be ranked higher than Indiana and actually just higher than other teams just because they actually have some decent wins. And other people argue, even though Indiana's wins aren't necessarily that great, they're undefeated in the Big Ten. They should be given a little respect on that. Whatever, it's the first week. We're going to see a lot. We're going to learn a lot about Indiana this weekend. I know they're playing Michigan. Michigan's not that great. We're going to learn a lot about Indiana. And I think that's when we will determine if they deserve to move up or down. Notre Dame at 10, Bama at 11, Boise State at 12, SMU 13, A&M 14, LSU 15, Ole Miss 16, Iowa State 17, Pitt 18, Kansas State 19, Colorado 20. I like that they did that just because Kansas State did beat Colorado. I think they do deserve to be at least one spot ahead of Colorado in any sort of rankings. Washington State comes in at 21, Clemson 20, Louisville 22. Sorry, I skipped over Louisville there. Louisville at 22, Clemson at 23, and Missouri. Fucking Missouri comes in at 24. Now, I don't agree with that at all, and I know I'm not alone in that. Mizzou is overrated as hell, as you have heard me say plenty of times. They do not deserve to be in any sort of top 25 ranking. But whatever, they're here. It won't last long. And then Army pulls it out at 25, undefeated Army. Honestly, I don't hate having Army at 25. They do need to be in the top 25 just because they are undefeated, but man, they have played some terrible teams. When they finally play Notre Dame, we will learn a lot about this Army team. So based on those rankings, this is how the playoff committee has the playoffs going out. They have Oregon, Georgia, Miami, BYU all receiving a first-round bye. The winner of the Boise State-Ohio State matchup would play BYU. Winner of Indiana and Tennessee would play Oregon. Alabama and Texas winner would play Miami. And Notre Dame and Penn State winner would play Georgia. Honestly, I would like to be either Alabama or Texas and Boise or Ohio State in this scenario if it played out this way, just because the winner of Boise, Ohio State, which is probably going to be Ohio State, let's be honest, goes to play BYU, which, let's be honest, Ohio State would win that. And then you're right on into probably playing Oregon, let's be honest. Alabama or Texas, that would be a great game. Whoever wins that game goes to play Miami. I think, man, Miami's a little fraudulent. I don't think they're going to win against any of these playoff teams, or at least most of them. And that's an easy win to then move on to the next round. In this scenario, those are the two spots that I would love to be the most. Tennessee would probably destroy Indiana, but Oregon would be a tough matchup. Penn State and Notre Dame, I would probably lean Penn State in that one, but it doesn't matter. I think both teams would just get wrecked by Georgia. But I don't hate how they laid it out. Again, you can argue Indiana shouldn't be 8, BYU shouldn't be 9. They should be higher ranked than that, or flip-flopped or something. I don't care. BYU still receives a first-round bye. Indiana's undefeated. Yes, they're in the Big Ten. They have played some good competition, but they haven't played great. I'm not saying Michigan's great, but they are very good competition. If they can just easily handle Michigan, there's no reason that they can't put up a good fight against Ohio State or any other team in the country. So I'm really curious to see how Indiana does this week. I think that will officially solidify where they should be in this rankings. All right, let's get into Friday night's games. We got two P4 matchups. We got Cal and Wake Forest, which is an ACC matchup. Wake Forest is a 7.5-point underdog at home. Cal has been on a little bit of a streak. They finally ended that streak last week, destroying Oregon State. But they were on a 4-game skid before that, and all 4 of those games they should have won. Field goal kicking has been a problem for this team, and in I think most, if not all of those 4 losses, field goal kicking late in the game kind of screwed them. Their first kicker, 7 of 14, not great. That's terrible. And some of those were end-of-game field goal attempts in close games that could have won the game for you. Boom, he's out. Bring in the new kicker, who is 8 of 9, which is fantastic, on a great stretch right there. The only problem is his one miss was a 28-yarder with 1:34 left in the game to take the lead against NC State, and they ended up losing. They just cannot catch a break. Cal could easily be a 1-loss, undefeated, whatever you want to say, team. It's just been rough, and I would be tearing my hair out if I was a Cal fan. They've become one-dimensional, and I think that's part of the problem, is they've been unable to get the run game going. They've really struggled with that run game, and they've got Jaden Ott as their running back, who has had great years in the past. So I don't know what. It must be offensive line. I'm going to be honest. I have not watched a ton of Cal. But yeah, they just cannot get that run game going. Or maybe they just, I don't know, they don't really refuse to. It's just they can't get it going. Wake Forest, they're 3-2 in their last 5. That's fine, I guess. It's not great. Except those 3 wins come against Stanford, NC State, and UConn. Neither of those teams are world beaters. Those aren't great wins. The best win would be NC State. But again, that's not even that great of a win. I think this game could be very fun. Both teams love to air it out. Wake Forest is one of the worst teams at defending the pass. So I think Cal might be able to actually not have to rely on their kickers to win this game. Let's just put it that way. If for some reason Wake Forest figures it out and is able to stop a passing attack, then I guess they could win this game. I just don't see that happening. But this could be a higher scoring game, and I think Cal is going to win this one probably pretty easily. I think a touchdown and a half is probably a good line. Iowa at UCLA. UCLA is a 5.5-point dog at home. This game, unlike the other game, could be kind of ugly. It just might be a little bit of a defensive struggle. If we look at Iowa's offense, they've been fine. They're great at running, fantastic actually at running the ball. Caleb Johnson has been amazing. They just, like any other Iowa team, just cannot throw the ball. And it doesn't even feel like past Iowa teams even had some sort of a passing attack just because they've always had a great tight end. They just really haven't done much this year at all. And now, granted, they do run the ball 2 or 3 times to every 1 time they throw it, which I guess is to be expected. If you're that good at it, why not? But even when they do throw the ball, though, they're just not good at it. Now, defensively for UCLA, they are great at stopping the run. Oh my goodness, at stopping the run, and they struggle with the passing game. So this is going to be a very interesting game if they can contain Caleb Johnson at all. And if they can, Iowa's going to be forced to pass, and it could be kind of an ugly game. Now, Iowa, if we look at their defense, Iowa always has a great defense, and so don't take anything wrong when I say that their defense just is not quite as scary as it's been in years past. Still a very good defense. Do not get me wrong there. But their weak spot, if you had to pick a weak spot on their defense, it would be the passing attack. They're a little weak in the secondary there, which coincidentally is where UCLA thrives. They have early in the season they have not been great through the air, but credit to Ethan Garbers. These last 2 weeks, the passing attack has not been bad, and that is credit to him. He has looked like a decent quarterback for once, completing nearly 80% of his passes for over 600 yards and 6 touchdowns in just the last 2 games. Has been unreal. If you saw him playing against Hawaii or any other Indiana, any team earlier this year, yikes. He was brutal. He was rough. It was not fun to watch, but he has looked decent the last couple of weeks. Now, granted, one of those games was against Rutgers. Rutgers is a very injured team, but still, they've looked good, or he's looked good these last 2 games. If UCLA can get the passing game going and Iowa has no stop for it, there's no reason why they can't win this game. I just think Iowa's defense is probably too good and probably is going to shut them down more than they would like. I feel like this could be a lower scoring game, and probably because it's lower scoring, it's closer than Iowa fans would like. I just feel like they probably won't be in danger of losing this one. Let's get into the Saturday games. Noon slate, Purdue at Ohio State. Ohio State is a 37.5-point favorite. I'm not going to say much on this game other than 37.5 is a lot of points, and I don't even think it's that insane. I think, let's just put it this way, I'm debating on putting a little money on Ohio State. There's going to be people who say that's too many points. There's no way that Ohio State's going to win by that many. Purdue's going to definitely cover, and I'm going to say, have you watched Purdue play? They've had one good game. Take out their one win against some random non-con opponent. They have not looked good outside that Illinois game. Purdue is one of the worst teams offensively and defensively. It's not just one or the other. Ohio State could play their backups and still win this game. Now, I'm not saying they would cover with their backups, but they could play their backups the whole game and win by multiple scores. I just have that little faith in this Purdue team. Minnesota at Rutgers. Rutgers is a 6.5-point dog at home. They're coming off a bye, so they're going to be healthier than they've been. But Rutgers has been so injured the last few weeks. And I think it's going to be too much. And I think that's why the line is as high as it is. Now, granted, Minnesota's been playing great, so that also plays into it. I just think Rutgers is also that banged up. Now, some people are calling this the Minnesota versus Minnesota East matchup, or Minnesota West versus Minnesota East, whatever you want to say, because let's be honest, there's a lot of interchanging between these two teams. Greg Schiano's PJ Fleck's mentor, Rutgers DC and offensive coordinator were both on the Gophers coaching staff. Gophers defense coordinator Corey Heatherman was on Rutgers defensive staff. There's also a handful of players that are now on Rutgers roster that were originally on the Gophers roster, most notably Ethan Kalik-Manis. If we look at him 8 games in last year compared to this year, he's having a better season than he did with the Gophers. He's same completion percentage, still has some. His receivers don't help him either. I watched a game or two, and his receivers also drop a lot of passes, which was an issue for him last year too. Some of that's him, some of that's the receivers. It goes both ways. So he still struggles with that. But he's thrown for more yards, more touchdowns, less interceptions. He has improved. He is better. I just don't think he's good enough. Max Brosmer is obviously way better, and Gophers defense is still a good defense, and I think it's going to be too much for him. I really like the Gophers in this one. I do, and I'm not just trying to be biased. Oh, by the way, this is my Gopher, my Minnesota Minute. I didn't even say that. Minnesota Minute. Like I said, I really like the Gophers. I just think this game does depend on just how healthy Rutgers is. I think Minnesota's talent significantly outweighs Rutgers. I think Brosmer, Taylor, and Jackson, Spencer, it's just going to be too much for this banged-up Rutgers defense. Now, if Minnesota's able to get out to a significant lead, even if it's just 10 points, just enough where Rutgers has to start throwing the ball more, I just don't trust Athan to win it. But if Rutgers is able to stay in it, run the ball, take some time off the clock, it could be closer than Gopher fans would like. I feel like this might be a game where Gopher fans, yes, because you are jaded and you've been burned so many times as just a Minnesota sports fan in general, I feel like there will never be a point where the Gophers actually are in fear of losing. Now, the fans might think so because, again, we'll overreact because that's what fans do, especially Minnesota fans. But I don't think the Gophers have a shot at losing this one. I'm probably going to eat those words, just because I said there's no chance they lose. They're probably going to lose now, but no. Positive attitude. Miami at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is a 10.5-point dog at home. And my same thoughts still ring out on Georgia Tech as they have every other week. They always have a shot if Haynes King is playing. Now, last I've seen, it's still undecided if he's actually playing. So I'm not touching this game until I know for a fact. Like I said, if he plays, they have a shot. He is the heart and soul of that offense of this team. Now, Georgia Tech has a pretty good defense. So we'll see if maybe this is the team that can finally slow down this Miami offense. I keep saying it. I keep holding out because I think Mario Cristobal, they've had some lucky games. He always messes up. I keep waiting for Miami to fall, and they just haven't, which means maybe this is my Ole Miss of this year. They just keep proving me wrong. I keep thinking maybe this could be the week, and I can never quite pull the trigger on it, and they also cannot quite pull the trigger on losing. Again, Haynes King is healthy. Georgia Tech has a chance. If he's not, Miami wins this game in a landslide. Not touching it till I know. Florida at Texas. Texas is currently a 21.5-point home favorite. Florida's a mess. But even though they're a mess, somehow Billy Napier may keep his job, which just sounds crazy to say. And he may still get fired. It's still up in the air, but there is a chance, there's a shot, no matter how small it is, that he somehow keeps his job. Florida might be down to their third-string quarterback in this game, and if they are, I like Texas in the points. I guess even if Lagway plays this weekend, I still think I like Texas. Texas in the points, just because he's probably not going to be fully 100% healthy. He went down with a hamstring injury, had to be carted off the field, didn't return. I think he was in the first quarter last week. But early reports say they're not worried about this being long-term. There's a chance he could return this season, if not this weekend. They have not completely ruled him out. I don't think he plays. And even if he does, like I said, he's not going to be fully healthy. I think because they're down to their third-string quarterback and just all the other injuries that they've had, because Florida's had quite a few, there's a chance Billy Napier keeps his job. But we'll see. I think Texas wins this one easily. 21.5-point favorites is crazy. West Virginia at Cincinnati. Cincinnati is a 4.5-point home favorite. West Virginia fired their defense coordinator going into the bye week, so maybe their defense has been upgraded from doo-doo status to just bad. I don't know. West Virginia is a team that loves to run the ball, which, believe it or not, Cincinnati struggled to defend this season, so that could bode well for West Virginia if they're able to get a good run game going and just keep Cincinnati's offense on the sideline, because that's what they want to do, let's be honest, because their defense has not been good. Cincinnati's offense has been good. They have a good quarterback. if West Virginia can keep that offense on the sideline, they have a shot to win this game. But they've got to get that run game going and keep Cincinnati on the sidelines. I I still lean Cincinnati in this game just because their defense is better than West Virginia, so they could make some stops in that run game, even though they've struggled against it. And I trust their quarterback way more than I trust West Virginia's. Green has been, I don't even know if he's playing this weekend. He might be out. I don't even know now. I like Cincinnati in this one. Afternoon games, we got Georgia at Ole Miss. Ole Miss is 2.5-point dog at home. And I back Georgia in this one, I think. Part of me feels like this could be a lower scoring game, which Georgia's probably going to be able to pull out. Carson Beck has played like absolute ass. This Ole Miss offense has also not been consistent. Now, don't get me wrong, they went off last weekend against Arkansas, but it is Arkansas. They've struggled at times, and I think that is what could lead to a lower scoring game because, again, Carson Beck is ass, and Ole Miss is just inconsistent. And this Georgia defense, we've seen it. When they have to, their defense is very good still. Well, it's Kirby Smart run defense. They're always going to be good. If Ole Miss wants to win this one, they do need to get pressure on Beck because he has struggled when put under pressure. And offensively, they need to keep some, not all. They don't need to keep all, but they need to keep some of that firepower that they had last weekend because obviously it's not going to be the same. Arkansas is significantly worse than Georgia defensively, but you got to keep some of that firepower. We got Michigan at Indiana. Indiana is a 13.5-point favorite. If before the season you had told me or anybody else that Indiana is a 2-touchdown favorite against Michigan at home, I would have said, dude, are you high? And I think everybody else would have said the exact same. Indiana is an absolute wagon. They cannot be stopped. Their starting quarterback goes down and has to have surgery on his throwing hand, and it only knocks him out for a week. Cam Rising cut his finger and was out for a month. It's just the absolute greatness surrounding this Indiana team is just unreal. I'm confident that Indiana could win this game. I really am. I know people are saying, oh, they ain't played nobody, Paul. I don't care. All they have to do is shut down Colston Loveland, and you shut down that passing attack, and then you just focus on stopping the run. Load the box, shut them down. This Michigan offense has been terrible. They are injured on defense. Their top two corners were out against Oregon. Now, sounds like Hill might be coming back. They are hopeful he's going to be back, but it sounds like Johnson is going to be out. And if they're both out, this could be a really bad game for Michigan. Now, if one or both are back, that's better. I like Indiana in this one. That crowd's going to be electric. I don't think Michigan wins this one. All right, let's see. Let's get into Iowa State at Kansas. Tough to get a read on this one. Kansas currently a 2.5-point underdog at home. If we look at Kansas' 2 wins this year, they were absolute blowouts. One was against Houston, bad team. The other was against Lindenwood. Who the fuck is Lindenwood? Of their 6 losses, though, 5 of those 6 have been by less than a touchdown, and their biggest loss is only by 11 points. They have not gotten blown out. They have played every single team tough, and they play hard, and Jalen Daniels has started to play better. He started off so terrible to begin this season. In his first 5 games this season, 53% completion percentage, 161 yards per game, 5 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. That's horseshit. That's terrible. That's absolutely doo-doo. But in his last 3 games, he's completing over 60% of his passes, over 235 yards a game, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. He has been a completely different quarterback. Now, granted, they've only won one of those last 3 games, but they've been in every single one, and they've been close. He has been significantly better, and he needs to keep that up if they want to beat Iowa State. And honestly, I kind of like Kansas in this one, if I'm going to be completely honest. I was shocked that Iowa State lost last weekend. I kind of penned them in to lose this weekend, and it's possible they could still lose. Let's get into South Carolina at Vandy. Um, Vandy is a home dog, and I don't fully understand that. Maybe it's because they're playing their sixth straight game, so that they're a little banged up, they're a little tired, they're ready for a bye week. I just still find it odd that South Carolina is a 3.5 point favorite on the road. Now, I know that Vandy's crowd is not usually that great, but they are pretty good this year, so I feel like the crowd might show up for this one. Um, Now, Vandy finishes the year against LSU and Tennessee, which are two very tough matchups, and don't get me wrong, they are winnable, I guess, but this one is much more manageable, and I think Vandy would feel a lot. Yes, they're bowl eligible, but I feel like they would feel a lot better with 7 wins versus 6. And they know those last two are tough. They get out one more week till the bye week. Gutted out one last time, and I think the Magic sticks around one more week. Now, this game could be lower scoring. That's typically how Vandy games go. And South Carolina's offense has struggled at times, so this could be a lower scoring one. And plus, both teams love to run the ball. They're not the biggest passers, so running the ball, if you didn't know, also takes time off the clock. I'm really curious about this game. I really am, because both defenses are very good against the run as well. So you could have it could just be a very ugly, low-scoring game that ends very quickly because they're taking so much time off the clock. Now, South Carolina, their defensive line has been fantastic at getting sacks and tackles for loss. But Vandy has been very good at not allowing sacks or tackles for loss. So that's really, I think, where this game will be won or lost is which team can Vandy's offensive line hold off South Carolina's defensive line. So far, teams have not been able to do that. For some reason, I feel like Jerry Kill has some magic to make it happen. Clemson at Virginia Tech. I don't have a lot to say on this one because it's very dependent on Virginia Tech. If Kyron Jones is healthy and plays, Virginia Tech has a good chance to cover or even win this game. We've seen offenses move the ball on Clemson's defense, especially in the run game. Obviously, Jones, is very good on the ground as well as throwing the ball. But if Jones is out this week, I like Clemson in at least a 2-touchdown win. So I'm still. It's hard for me to give my thoughts on this one until I know who's playing, and I will not touch this game from a betting standpoint until I know for a fact who is playing. But if Jones plays, I do like Virginia Tech to cover. Let's see here. Let's get into the evening games, but before we do that, let's take a quick smoke break. And this smoke break is brought to you by weed, because what's a smoke break and what's a wake and bake without some weed? All right, let's get into the evening games. Maryland at Oregon. Oregon's a 24.5-point favorite at home. No preview needed for this game. Oregon has shown to be one of, if not the most complete team in the country. There's a reason they're number one. They have just dismantled every team except Ohio State, but they still won that game. And Maryland has kind of been a disaster. I think Oregon could win this one by 4+ touchdowns if they want to. And I think it literally is a matter of just if they want to. They may just get out to a 3-touchdown lead and just be like, all right, let's just coast to a win, get out of here. No shot Maryland wins. Mississippi State at Tennessee. Tennessee's a 23.5-point favorite at home. Tennessee's 6-1, so they don't really need a get-right game, but I feel like this is going to be a get-right game for them. And what I mean by that is the offense has just been barely off for the last 2 games with a bye week in between. Against Alabama, just Nico was okay. He was good. He was not great. He just barely missing some open throws, just connects on a couple more of those, and we're looking at a completely different game, an absolute blowout. But nope, just couldn't quite connect. And then they go into the bye week, tweak some things, come out against Kentucky, and Nico looked amazing. He looked fantastic. He was making almost every throw. And if you didn't have, I'll just say 2 drops. There was 3, but the third one he got absolutely popped. Helmet hit right on the ball. I don't know anybody who would have held on to that. But there was 2 other drops in the game, Brazel and Nimrod. And if either one of those or both of them hold on, it is a completely different ball game. Tennessee wins by a lot more against Kentucky, and Nico has a fantastic stat line where nobody is questioning this offense going into this week. And I think with Mississippi State being as bad as they are, I think this is where the offense finally clicks and they stop being off by just a hair here and there, and they finally have it all click. And guys, I'm telling you, when Tennessee's offense finally gets it to click, watch out, because that defense is unstoppable. And when that offense is clicking, like I said, these last 2 games should have been much bigger wins. They should have been absolute blowouts. They were just off by a hair. So watch out for Tennessee. UCF at Arizona State. This line confuses me, and I'm sure somebody smarter than me can explain why it's switched that much, other than obviously money going into it. I understand that, but this is kind of along the same lines of I just didn't understand how Vandy was an underdog last week. It's not quite that egregious. I just don't understand. The line has gone from 4.5-point favorites for Arizona State to 2.5, which I get it. They're still the favorites, 2.5 points, whatever. I feel like if anything, it should be going the other way. So it's, what do they know that I don't? And why is money going in on Arizona or UCF? I don't know. Maybe it's because they've made changes to play callers defensively, offensively. Who knows? But this one will be interesting. Both teams absolutely love to run the ball, and both teams are absolutely great at stopping the run. Well, I guess I shouldn't say great. Both teams are good at stopping the run. So I think whichever team can establish a passing attack is going to win this game. And honestly, if I had to pick a team to do that, it's going to be Arizona State, because if you look at UCF's passing attack, if you just go through, just look at their games and just look at the quarterback stats, it's ugly. It's so bad. They have not been able to get a passing attack going. Now, granted, they did win last week against Arizona, and they won pretty convincingly. I think Arizona has given up, but whatever, that's a different story. So maybe that's why, and there's hope for UCF. I don't know. I just know that Arizona State has proven to be just an overall better team than UCF. And UCF has been absolutely abysmal at stopping the passing attack. Now, again, they made a change at defensive coordinator, so who knows? Maybe it's slightly better. I just don't have any faith that UCF wins this one, and I think Arizona wins quite convincingly. Florida State at Notre Dame. No need to preview this one. Notre Dame's a 25.5-point favorite. Florida State's dead. I just had to shit on Florida State. Bama at LSU. LSU is a 2.5-point underdog at home, and I'm excited for this one. Whichever team loses, their fan bases are going to have a meltdown against those coaches, and it's going to be fantastic. Whichever side it is, I honestly don't care. I'm ready for the meltdowns. I'm here for it. And honestly, I don't know. And clearly at a 2.5-point line, nobody really knows how to read this game or who's, obviously Bama's the favorite, but it's still kind of a toss-up. I don't trust either team because this is a big game. We've seen Brian Kelly in big games. He shits the bed. Now, they did win against Ole Miss, and that was at home, and they are at home this week. So, and it is a night game. LSU at night, that's going to be loud. You know how it is. In Bama, they just do stupid stuff to shoot themselves in the foot, and they're one of the most penalized teams, and they are just a dumb team. Between those two things, I don't know who's going to win, because both teams are going to do stuff in this game to try to lose the game for themselves. It's just who's going to be more successful at that. Offensively, everybody knows it. LSU is absolutely explosive through the air. Garrett Nussmeier has looked amazing. But part of the reason they are so explosive through the passing attack is because they throw it so much and do not run the ball. They literally refuse to run the ball. They just don't even bother. They have the fourth lowest rushing attempts in the country. They just do not care to run the ball at all. Bama's defense has been pretty average. Not like we've seen in years past. They've let up some, plays through the air and some explosives here and there. So I think this could be a higher scoring game because of that. Now, if LSU wants to win this game, it's the story of every other game against Bama. You need to get after Milroe, and you can't let him get out of the pocket and hurt you with his legs. The minute he starts scrambling around, you're done for. He's so deadly when he does that. You cannot let him beat you with his legs. And offensively, just sprinkle in a little bit of a run game. Try to get something going. I think it might help because we saw what happened last week against Texas A&M. They completely shut down your passing attack in that second half. Don't let them be able to sell out at stopping the pass. Try to run the ball at least a little bit. I'm so excited for this game. Like I said, one of these fan bases is going to have a meltdown, and I cannot wait. I lean LSU solely because of the home field advantage, and because I kind of bank on Bama to make more of the stupid mistakes than Brian Kelly does. Oklahoma at Mizzou. Now, this is a line switch that I can get behind. Mizzou started as a 2.5-point favorite. They are now a 2.5-point underdog. And it could be more if you ask me. Mizzou is ranked 24th in the college football playoff rankings. We already went over that. Already talked about how it's complete horseshit. I just have to bring it back up so that we can reiterate how horseshit it actually is. They do not deserve to be in any sort of top 25. They've been overrated all season. They never should have been there to begin with. Oklahoma, they are coming off of their best offensive performance of the season, which is coincidentally right after they fired their offensive coordinator. So that's interesting. Now, it was against Maine, so if they had not put up massive numbers, it would have been a little concerning. Now, they put up like 600 yards of offense. It was a good day to be an Oklahoma fan. Now, how confident I am in this game for Mizzou and Oklahoma is who is playing quarterback for Mizzou. We've seen it the last two games. Connor Cook has gone out with injury, and Drew Pine has had to come in, and it has been terrible. So if Drew Pine is the quarterback this weekend, I think Oklahoma wins this thing easily. If Brady Cook plays and is fully-ish healthy, then I think Oklahoma wins, but it's closer. I don't see a scenario where Mizzou wins this game just because that Oklahoma defense is good enough to wreak havoc. Again, I have little faith in either team, to be honest. I really don't. I just do have more faith in Oklahoma because of how overrated Mizzou is. And again, maybe I'm biased because I've been on that hate train all season, so I will say that, but I don't care. Washington at Penn State. Penn State is a 13.5-point favorite at home. Penn State, James Franklin, the fans, all of them, the players, everybody, they're all so pissed after last week's loss. You can't win the big one. James Franklin's mad because he's got fans chirping him. Fans are mad because they have a great team every year. They just cannot win against Ohio State or Michigan or who, you know what I mean. It's just been rough. He's 1-10 against Ohio State. I don't remember his terrible record against top 5 teams. It's just can't win the big ones. Fans are restless, but guys, I don't know that you can do that much better. I'm not saying James Franklin's the ceiling because I guess it could always be better. But it does. I don't think it will be better than him. So just chill. Now, Penn State's offense was not good against Ohio State. They got deep in the red zone twice, could not convert. Really only had 6 points of total offense. The defense put up 6 of their own. Just brutal. Brutal to be a Penn State fan after that game. They're going to wreck Washington. I think the fans are going to show up. I think Penn State players are pissed off. James Franklin's pissed off. They're going to use that aggression to just dismantle this Washington team. I have little faith in Washington. They have not proven all season that they can complete drives on offense, and their field goal kicking has been atrocious. They're not going to be able to put up points because they won't be able to finish those drives against this really good Penn State defense. Penn State wins this one pretty easily. Then let's get into the one late night game. We got the Holy War. BYU at Utah. Utah was a 4.5 point dog that has now gone to 3.5 points at home. Utah was added to the dead list a couple weeks ago, and so far they have done nothing to revive themselves, kind of like Minnesota did. I had Minnesota on the dead list, and they have completely risen from the dead, and they are no longer in jeopardy of being on the dead list. As we know, Cam Rising is out for the year. Isaac Wilson, the freshman, has been the starter since he's been out. And just this week, Whittingham has decided to keep the starting quarterback a secret. Sophomore Brandon Rose now has a shot to start on Saturday. Utah is a disaster, and it hurts me to say that because I've always been not always. I've liked Utah while Rising has been the quarterback there. So it hurts me a little bit to say that they're a disaster, but they are. Utah's defense is good enough to keep them in it. I just don't know if their offense has done nearly enough to give me any hope that they could win. Utah has not scored more than 20 or more points since September 21st when they played Oklahoma State. I just don't, until they can prove that they can get a competent offense without Cam Rising at quarterback, I just don't see them winning this one. BYU wins the Holy War. All right, let's get into my 5 favorites for the weekend. And my 5 faves is brought to you by Positive Attitude, Winning Mindset. We're going to turn this thing around. Arizona State, -2.5 at -120. From everything I stated earlier, I liked this at 4.5, and it's gone down to 2.5. I'm hammering that all day. I just don't see a way that UCF wins this game. Arizona State is just the better all-around team, and if I haven't said it before, I'll say it again. Kenny Dillingham is high up on my coaching list. He is probably a top 10, top 5 coach of the future if you asked me to make a list. Tennessee, -23.5 at home at -114. This Mississippi State team is terrible. Like I said, I think this is a get-right team for the offense for Tennessee, and I think they absolutely flourish and blow out this Mississippi State team. Colorado, Texas Tech over 62.5 at -110. 2 offenses who absolutely love to throw the ball, and at least one defense that's terrible at pass defense. That would be Texas Tech. So Colorado is going to score quickly and often. But Texas Tech will be able to score some. Colorado's defense is not, impenetrable. So, this could be a pretty high-scoring game, but Colorado is going to score a lot. Duke plus 3.5. We'll get into it in a sec, but Duke plus 3.5, -120 at NC State. I know NC State's won some games recently, but they haven't been against great teams. And Duke's a pretty decent team. I don't like this line. I think Duke covers. And then Minnesota -6.5 at -115. Usually, it didn't happen last week, but usually when I bet on Minnesota, they just fuck me. So I'm nervous to place this bet. But I'm doing it because I'm confident. This offense is absolutely rolling. The defense has played good enough. Rutgers is hurt. Now, is there going to be extra motivation from both sides because they know each other very well? It's possible. But I like Minnesota by at least a touchdown. Some of my honorable mentions, Duke money line. Because, again, I just don't see how North Carolina State wins this game. That's at plus 126. Colorado team total over 33.5 at -125. I told you, I think Colorado's going to score a lot. This Texas Tech defense is terrible. Colorado's offense is good, or at least at throwing the ball. Colorado team total over 33.5. And then BYU minus 3.5 at minus 118. For everything I said just a few minutes ago, Utah just has nothing going for them on offense. BYU can do enough offensively to score some, but they don't even need to score a lot to win this game because I just don't know that Utah's going to score any or much at all. And then I got my Power 4 money line parlay. Minnesota, Georgia, Arizona State, Clemson, plus 495. I feel like I'm going to regret that because I also have Minnesota and Arizona State in my 5 faves, and that's always bit me in the ass, but I'm doing it because we got a positive attitude and a winning mindset, and we're turning this thing around. Thank y'all for joining me. This is actually going to be a really good weekend in college football. I'm excited. It's a lot of good games to watch, some important games to watch. I hope you all enjoy. I hope your bets win, and I will talk to you guys Monday to recap.